What's going on, guys? This is Matt and Greg with Project Unbroken, and today we're going to give you some examples of people who have taken their disorders and turned them into their strengths. Stay tuned. So guys, as many of you may know, Greg and I struggled with addiction for many years. I've been clean off of heroin for about 10 years. Greg's been clean for about 8. And we started to kind of find patterns in our behavior and our actions that maybe led us to our addiction, but also led us to our successes that we now enjoy in our lives. So we kind of went down the rabbit hole a little bit with this one, and we ended up finding a lot of examples of people who had different types of learning disorders or brain disorders, and they actually turned that quote-unquote disorder into a strength, and they really used it to become hyper successful. And you guys are definitely going to realize or recognize some of these names that we're going to go over, and we're just going to kind of briefly discuss how that sometimes negative kind of idea that somebody might have about a disorder can really be the strength that pushes somebody to be that outlier and that that find that success that we don't often see. Let's start with dyslexia.
Yeah, so dyslexia, let me get my notes here because I wrote down each of these. We got dyslexia, autism, ADHD, and addiction, which are all considered disorders, different types. And the whole point of this video is to help you see that you can channel each of your traits in a positive way. Even if there's negative associated to it, like addiction, obviously, there's great negatives that can be associated with addiction, right? You can ruin your life. There's also great positives that can be associated with it, and that's the whole point of this video. So, number one is dyslexia. Now, people with dyslexia are often very good at pattern finding and visual processing, all right? Next, we got autism. People with autism are usually good at detail-oriented tasks like music, art, and programming, computer programming, things like that. Next, we got ADHD. Usually people with ADHD thrive as entrepreneurs. And then lastly, addiction, which is going to be an interest to many of us. People with addiction are often linked to intense drive, obsessiveness, and creativity. So it's really interesting because each of these things, especially with addiction, with the obsessiveness and the intense drive, you can use that in the wrong way or you can use it in the right way. Right?
Yeah. And then even go back to dyslexia.
So again, remember dyslexia, the strength of that is pattern finding and something visual. And the first guy we have up here, Ingvar Kamprad, he's the founder of IKEA. Now, what is IKEA? It's a furniture or some type of furniture type thing. Basically, has a lot to do with pattern design and visualization. He used that to his advantage, and he now has a $5 billion company.
If you guys have ever been to an IKEA store, when you walk in, you're like, oh, this is set up perfectly. And it's just, the showroom, you can tell there's a lot of just patterns and organization. Things are set up really, really well.
Instead of him saying, oh, I got dyslexia, ooh, he said, all right, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use it to my advantage, right?
Yeah.
So next we got someone everyone's probably heard of, and that's Richard Branson.
Yeah, founder of the Virgin Corporation. So Virgin Airlines, Virgin Records, just Virgin everything.
Billionaire.
Yeah, billionaire.
We're $5 billion.
Yeah, hyper successful.
He also has ADHD.
Yeah, also has ADHD. And again, people look at, this person has learning disabilities or learning disorders. Again, I try not to look at it like a negative thing. It's maybe they just think a little bit differently. And again, in Richard Branson's case, it's led him to a lot of success.
Yeah, we said, when we were talking about this video, we were saying what are these classified as? Disorder? I'm I don't know if that even feels right. Just the way you look at it. I don't really look at disorder. I think some people look at disorder and they look at it as a disability, and it's not at all.
Good point.
So last is Barbara Corcoran, and she is a real estate mogul. Now, what's interesting about her is I believe she was on Shark Tank, and she took a $1,000 investment from her boyfriend. She turned it into a $5 billion real estate empire.
It's a nice turnover right there.
Yes, it is.
Moving to autism. So, Greg, what was the characteristics again that we were talking about with autism?
Yeah, so autism, they're very good at detail-oriented tasks like music, art, programming, things like that.
Okay. So starting off with what is, widely considered the greatest chess player of all time, Bobby Fischer. Just unbelievable. There's been movies made about this guy. Just able to walk around a room with multiple opponents and just clean up the chess table.
Yeah, and I played chess before, and it's a tough game.
Well, you have to think 10 steps ahead. And again, what many people look at as a disorder, for Bobby and some of these other examples we're going to go over, it set them just way ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
Temple Grandin is a really interesting example here. She's an animal scientist who worked a lot in the animal slaughter industry because she was able to understand the anxiety that animals felt when they were being walked to slaughter.
That's so cool.
And she completely changed the setup of all of these slaughterhouses so that when the animals went there, it was with less anxiety and less fear and less,
That's an awesome way to use your disorder, quote unquote. That's so cool to me. Next, we got Albert Einstein, who everyone has heard of, probably one of the smartest men in history, right? And again, Albert Einstein also has ADHD.
Yeah, guys, interesting fact, Albert Einstein, when he was in grade school, he was failing out because he was actually so far ahead of how everyone else was thinking that they thought he was dumb. Really, he was just on a whole different level.
It's crazy. Yeah, so next we got ADHD. Well, actually, some other people for autism. We got Michelangelo and Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, Michelangelo basically reframed the art landscape. Sculptor, painter, architect, poet, just was able to see proportions and just everything in a different light. Nikola Tesla, very famous inventor who has been more popular recently, but a lot to do with electricity, and a lot of the ways, or a lot of the inventions we use in day-to-day life are thanks to him.
All right, so next we got ADHD. I'm just going to kind of read down this list with some very, very popular names here. ADHD is maybe one of the more popular ones of all these. It's a disorder that people widely use Ritalin and Adderall to treat, and I believe it's highly over-medicated. But we have Albert Einstein, Richard Branson, John F. Kennedy, Will Smith, Jim Carrey, Michael Jordan, Justin Timberlake, Michael Phelps, and Walt Disney. Now, what I find interesting is we have two of the best sports stars in their specific sports. We got Michael Jordan, probably the best basketball player of all time. Probably gonna have LeBron fans coming in commenting on that, or Wilt Chamberlain, but one of the best basketball players of all time, if not the best. And then Michael Phelps, who's probably the best swimmer of all time. Now, instead of them saying, oh, I got a disorder, they used their ADHD to pretty much be obsessive about what they were doing, right? Instead of kind of saying, oh, I got ADHD, they used that and they were obsessive about their sport. Michael Jordan is known for being in the practice, for being the first one there, last one to leave, shooting in the all hours of the night and just practicing nonstop.
Yeah, and with all these quote-unquote disorders, I don't think it's even necessarily the people have a chance to look at things one way or the other. It's just they tend to have a more positive look on the hand they were dealt, and they really used it to their advantage.
Yeah, so the last one, the one we're most interested in, is addiction. Now, I've been purposely kind of covering up this person under addiction because I didn't know that she was an addict. One of the most successful women in today, and that's Oprah Winfrey. Now, I didn't know, but Oprah Winfrey smoked crack in her 20s. She was actually a crackhead, a crack addict, I guess you would call it. And remember, addiction is often linked to intense drive, obsessiveness, and creativity. So she was able to use her addiction and turn herself into one of the most successful women in the world.
Yeah, easily one of the most influential women to ever walk the face of the earth, who was a crack addict in her 20s. And that, you don't see a lot of people that even talk about those negative things, because a lot of times addiction can have such a negative connotation that people just, they have that stigma about it, when it doesn't need to be the case. There's a lot of studies that show that addicts share a lot of the same personality traits as CEOs do. So, while things may have manifested in a bad way in a certain period of time in your life and maybe led to addiction, it doesn't have to stay on that path. You can really take those same personality traits like Greg was talking about, with drive and being really obsessive with finding success instead of, for us, finding heroin, and it can lead you down the right path.
Yeah, so this video is all about just channeling your traits in the right way, right? Like when I was an addict, my addictive personality, or my addiction, my brain disorder, so to speak, I was really channeling it in the complete wrong way. Like I really do have intense drive and creativity and all that, but I was using it all for my addiction. Like I was intensely driven to get my drug and use my drug, and that was it, right? I was an addict to the core. Also, I believe I have a little bit of autism, maybe very low on the spectrum. I'm not very good at talking to people, right? Like I get uncomfortable sometimes talking to people. I'm all right with it, but I'm not great at it. Definitely out of the norm on the lower scale of like communication. So I believe I have other aspects of autism. So for me, I kind of looked at this and I'm like, all right, I kind of looked at my personality and I'm like, how can I use this to my advantage? So what do I do today? Well, I'm pretty successful as an internet marketer, which means I don't have to talk to people, right? I use my intense drive and really my maybe low spectrum of autism, and I use it to my advantage, and I started a very successful internet marketing company. And I was able to do that because I have intense drive, okay? And I use something that I don't have to go out of my skill set for. I don't have to go out and network with people. I don't have to go out and do things that I'm not good at. I use things I'm good at and use my intense drive and use it to my advantage.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people today talk about doubling down on your strengths,
Yeah.
and I think that's really important. Greg's not out here trying to be a public speaker necessarily, and while on the flip side of the coin, I'm really good at that kind of stuff. Like I'm in front of people all day talking to large groups of people, and it's easy for me. What I would have trouble with is sitting in front of a computer all day by myself. So again, you have to look at the hand you were dealt and really be honest with yourself. What is going to fit in your skill set? What are you gonna be able to play to your advantages on? Everybody's gonna have a different hand that's dealt to them, and you need to play yours well. Like I can't play Greg's hand. It wouldn't work for me at all, and vice versa. And again, we both have our ways that we found success, and it's just completely different paths. So being honest with yourself, taking some personal inventory and understanding what's going to be good for you and what you're going to be good at can really take you a long way.
Yeah, so guys, the main point of this video, do not use any type of disorder you have as a disability.
Exactly.
Right? It's not a disability, it's a disorder, and you can take advantage of it. So anything else you want to add to this?
No, I think that'll do it.
All right, cool. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let us know, did you like this style of video? Do you want us to do more like this? Let us know. We'll see y'all soon.